The Italian Wine Podcast is the community-driven platform for Italian wine geeks around the world. Support the show by donating at ItalianWinepodcast.com. Donate €5 or more and we'll send you a copy of our latest book, My Italian Grape Geek Journal, absolutely free. To get your free copy of My Italian Grape Geek Journal, click Support Us at ItalianWinepodcast.com or wherever you get your pods. Grazie mille.
Welcome to Masterclass U.S. Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the U.S. market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the U.S. market.
Hello, welcome to Masterclass U.S. Wine Market. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Ryan Robinson to the Italian Wine Podcast. Ryan and I were just at Vinitaly, although not together, but we just got back hot off Vinitaly 2024, so excited about all things Italian wine. But Ryan currently resides between Spain and Connecticut. He's the Director of Education for Brescome-Barton Inc. and Worldwide Wines in Connecticut, the largest distributor in the state. He also serves as wine director at the Cornerstone restaurant group in North America and South Korea. Outside of distribution and restaurants, Ryan is also a professor at the University of New Haven and holds many wine credentials, including Italian Wine Ambassador, which he just passed last week. Congratulations, Ryan. Another accomplishment to add to your long list.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited. The ambassador exam is definitely a doozy, and I'm happy to have made it through.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again. Ryan, today we're going to focus on the Connecticut market. It's not a market for the U.S. that I've had a chance to explore yet, so I'm really excited to dive into that. But before we dive into today's conversation, tell us just a little bit more briefly about your background and what led you into your career in the wine industry.
Yeah, that has a potential to be a very long answer. So to keep it short as possible, I was forced to learn about wine at an early age, and when I took a break from college, and then when I went back to finish my degree, I realized I could make a lot more money selling wine than I could doing any other part-time job. So it got me through school, and I started a different career path. And with the state of the economy at that time, I had to make some changes. And I was like, I think I like wine. And I realized it can be highly competitive. I will never know it all. And I really like that challenge. And so that's kind of what got me into it. And I got involved with the Court of Master Sommeliers. And through that advancement, I passed the advanced exam in the state of Idaho, the first candidate in the state to pass.
Oh, wow.
And I realized that I might need to relocate to move up to get my invite to the Master. So after interviewing all around the country, I ended up settling in New England. And that's what brought me here. And so my background has been on premise as a wine director for either large restaurant groups or large individual fine dining restaurants.
Amazing. Great. What led you to taking the Vinitaly International Academy course?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. As I've pursued my career in wine, I realized, as I mentioned, it's the entire world. There's so much to know. And through my studies, I began to find areas that I just felt more passionate about or a higher level of interest or connection with. And that led my scope to kind of focus in more on wines of Italy and the wines of Spain, two of my areas that kind of really my interest. And so in search to learn more about Italian wines, that's how I was connected with the Vinitaly Academy. As a recommendation from someone who had previously gone.
Fantastic. So Ryan, we're going to focus in, as I mentioned, on Connecticut. So for today's masterclass, our key takeaways are, number one, what is the market for Italian wine in Connecticut? Just a brief overview. Number two, what are the opportunities for Italian wine in the Connecticut market? And you have a lot of exposure to this in your role working in distribution. And then finally, number three, what do you think on the horizon and moving forward for Connecticut as we see so many changes in the wine industry? So for starters, just give us an overview of Connecticut. Some of our listeners might not even know where on the map it sits, and some of us may be very familiar with it, but give us a broad overview of the Connecticut wine market right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Connecticut is very unique and very different from what I grew up with in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's a relatively small state, but if you ask anyone here, They think their state is as big as Texas at times. Logistically, the state is divided between kind of the north and the south, which is really strange to me, as it's such a small state. It is part of the New England states, although I think sometimes the other New England states would disagree with that statement. We're nestled between two huge markets. We've got, from where I'm located right now, in New Haven, I'm about a 2.5-hour train ride to Grand Central Station in New York, in the city, and then I'm about a 90-minute car ride to Boston. So geographically, we have these two big epicenters of population, and I find that Connecticut is kind of the in-between of those two.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
I think I have a really unique perspective on the market for Connecticut because of the diversity of my professional ties. So I originally was here with restaurants in the on-premise buying. So I think I've got a very good understanding as to what restaurant customers are looking for in the wine industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then working in distribution as a director of education, I see global trends, I see trends within the United States, and then I can see specific sales trends, how those work within the state of Connecticut. And you would think that distribution and restaurants, that there would be like similar trends, but that's not always the case, and different expectations for the both of those. And then teaching at the University of New Haven, I teach wine appreciation and top shelf wine and spirits. So working with college students and their entry-level perception of wine. So
Right.
It's pretty fascinating to me. So when we look at Connecticut, I think Connecticut is a great state for to launch new wines. If you're looking for new test markets, there's been other like very large producers within the United States that when they've got a new wine or a new product, they select Connecticut because it's kind of a good test study of the entire country, just on a small level. We have closer to New York, we have more financial affluence. We've got the most wealthy zip code in the United States here, right in Greenwich on the New York border. And so we see...
I did not know that. I thought it was Upper East Side. Okay, well...
One type of buyer. This is what I'm told since I've lived here. Now, this is very biased from the Connecticut point of view, but this is where we have hedge fund managers, people from Wall Street, just a lot of wealth within the Greenwich area. So you see one type of buying, and then only 2.5 hours drive to the east as we get closer to Rhode Island, we see a much different style of buying where it's no longer their parameters for what they're looking for completely change. So we're not a uniform state at all, and that's why I think it's a good test market to bring in new wines.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you said, you have from the wealthiest zip code in the U.S. to maybe a large student population, right? There's so many colleges concentrated in Connecticut, so you're really getting such a range of demographics in a relatively small state. Talk to us a little bit, if I'm a producer coming from Italy to do market work, like where in Connecticut might I focus in order to get an understanding of the state? Maybe where would I focus at the high end in terms of cities, and where might I focus for the low end?
Yeah, absolutely. So because it's so different and so diverse here, typically if we're looking for, as a broad generalization, if you're working the market and you're looking for accounts that are interested in those higher end wines or wines that might be more allocated, not readily available, then definitely closer to New York. We sell, as a distribution company, we sell more imported wines within those counties. And this would be probably the most ideal market for maybe higher end Italian wines. But then conversely, on the eastern portion of our state, we have two large casinos. While it's more rural on the eastern portion of our state, Foxwoods, when it was built, was the largest casino in the world and the largest casino in the United States. It's now the second largest. There's a tribal casino in Oklahoma that's now the largest. But we've got very big spending influence with those two casinos that are, maybe 7 miles apart from each other.
Right.
So you really can learn a lot by working the market on both sides of the state. If you focus on one, you're missing out on a whole nother segment by avoiding the other side of the state. Right now, those work withs have been with mainstream brands, what have historically been popular. Names that are very recognizable, that you can go into our package stores, what we call our liquor shops here in Connecticut, because wine is sold out of shops and not in supermarkets.
Right. Okay.
So you can see by working with those, it's always been names that are very recognizable that you can see on end caps. And that's historically kind of what's been driving, like wines from Tuscany are very popular, sparkling wines from the Veneto and around the Veneto are great, and then maybe higher end wines from Piedmont or Piemonte Nebbiolo-based wine. So that's historically what the market has been.
Okay. So some of your more classic, like mainstream categories, you're going to see like more in the casino markets or the eastern side of the state. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, more mainstream for the state as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But over the last couple of years, I've seen that change. There's been a shift in that change. Working with restaurants or buying for restaurants, those popular name brands that most every wine consumer can relate to, that's historically what's been presented and what's been offered. And it's been on a value-driven scale and maybe not a unique or rarity-driven scale. And so what I'm starting to see over the last couple of years is while wine sales are continuing to drop, like all segments of the wine sales are dropping in Connecticut, what we're seeing is that there's an interest in wines made from unique or unknown grape varieties, from unknown producers, and from unknown regions. And this is, to me, it's very counterintuitive. If wine sales are down, you think that you would want to continue to push things that are familiar, things that drive comfort. But I would make the argument that it's the opposite that's going to turn that dial, that it's, the new drinkers today don't want to drink what their parents and grandparents drink. They don't want to drink like those staple names from Tuscany. They're looking for something new, something adventurous, and something that's might be a little funky or weird. And I think this is why Italian wines have a great potential right now in the state of Connecticut.
Really interesting. Yeah. And when you're looking, Ryan, at bringing on new suppliers within your book, at your company, what qualities are you looking for in the wineries that you're hoping to work with?
Absolutely. So this is a great question. Within my role here, I chair our new item committee. So any type of spirit that comes in goes through this committee for Brescome-Barton. And we taste the wines, and these are the 4 categories that we assess everything that comes in, whether it's wine, spirits, RTDs, seltzers. We give a numerical score based on need. Is there a need in our portfolio for this? What is the price? Does it fit a certain segment that we're looking for? We're also looking at the quality. And then the final thing that we grade for is like presentation. Like, what physically does the bottle look like? Is this going to do well in the retail market? Is it going to stand out on the shelf? Or is it going to be something that's very functionable, that's could be easily stored or easily accessed for the on-premise market for our restaurants? And so it's those 4 categories that we look at. Then outside of that, we taste everything to assess that level of quality. And then we're looking to, what does the supply look like? What is the consistency? And then also, what are the expectations? We could be adventurous and bring in new wines. Like right now, I'm really enjoying wines from Orvieto, Briquetto-based wines, and they seem to be doing better here. But those unique wines, can we get a continued supply of those throughout the year?
Right, absolutely. And Ryan, could you just say those 4 qualities again? Repeat them for us, what you're looking for, those 4 factors?
Yeah, absolutely. So we look for need. Is there a need in the market? What is the price? What is our price that we're getting at? And does that price fit an area that's missing? What is the quality of the product? And then what we say, we vote on like the package, but what's the presentation of the product? Like, what does it look like? Because we first taste with our eyes,
of course,
when we're in the store before we do anything else. And while I don't want to affix like a quality level based on the cover of a book, the reality is that's how people buy it. It's something that we need to consider.
Absolutely.
And producers really need to consider that as well.
For sure. How it's going to stand out on the shelf, what it's going to look like in its competitive set as well, I'd imagine is quite important. So absolutely. So those are the 4 qualities, when you're looking at a new wine or a new partner to bring into the state.
Italian Wine Podcast, part of the Mama Jumbo
And would you say
family.
right now, I know you mentioned Orvieto, there's some interest there. Any other categories you feel like for Italian wine right now that you feel like are particularly good fit for the Connecticut market, or products that you're seeing garner some traction in the market?
Yes, I don't know what's going on in Sicily, but I absolutely love it. Boy, Sicilian wines are hot right now. I traveled with a supplier, an Italian importer last year, and they carry like some of the largest wines in the United States here, but they don't have any wines from Sicily. And so that's what they were looking for. That was a need for them, is on the importer level, like they're trying to stock their portfolio with Sicilian wines. As a distributor, we're looking for Sicilian wines here. We've got some amazing names in our book, but those names are at the higher tier. We're looking for more of that like middle tier Sicilian wine, but right now it's sexy and people want it.
So Sicilian wine, but interesting you mentioned price point. You feel like some of the offerings are almost getting too expensive for the market. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so as a broad generalization for the Connecticut market, the value driven tier, within for US dollars, $9.99 and below, this is very oversaturated and a very stagnant section. And historically, this has been where a lot of those Italian wines have made their case that that they could come in at that price point. With that price point being stagnant, it gives us the opportunity to look for more quality and more unique producers. And for the last 2 years, it's been the premium category that still has been growing and still on the rise. I was just reading a report for the state of the wine industry for 2024 this last week, and it's projected that the ultra premium section is going to drop about 10% this year in sales.
Yeah, I've been seeing those trends as well.
Yeah, so for us, we're looking for that middle tier.
Okay.
Kind of the Goldilocks
right.
tier.
And you're defining that at what price points?
For us, anything between the $12.99 category and this is wholesale cost, so $12.99
wholesale,
to $19.99 per bottle. In the state of Connecticut, we set minimum bottle pricing, which I think is fantastic. It keeps everyone on the same minimum level.
Okay.
So we can't have large producers come in and undercut other producers. So I guess that's another thing to think about for suppliers and new producers coming into the Connecticut market. Whereas in other markets, very large package stores or large wine shops can negotiate pricing, and they can undercost the mom and pop competitors, the small shop competitors.
Right.
In the state of Connecticut, that's not possible. So another great reason to launch new wines for a test market in Connecticut is the state sets a minimum pricing that for retail.
Oh, very interesting. And the minimum price is set by product, by SKU.
Absolutely, yes.
Very cool.
And so that is a joint collaboration between the trade development managers for the distributor and then the supplier. So to work on that minimum pricing, and then we register that minimum pricing with the state. So there's certain things we could do if we have like a small Italian producer who doesn't have a lot of product, but they really want to be focused in the restaurant sector. Mm-hmm. We can set a higher minimum bottle price. We can set a higher minimum bottle price that's higher than what the wine's actually valued at, because then this discourages retailers from selling it, right? Because restaurants operate on a different scale. So we have the ability through pricing structure to maybe discourage off-premise placements to encourage on-premise placement.
You can even really control your strategy as it relates to your distribution by premise too, which is interesting because, we hear in other markets, like as much as your intention might be for something to be on premise, the reality is the distributor's going to sell it where they can get the sale, right? But it sounds like for Connecticut, you can price strategically to really control where in the market your product is going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is really advantageous. I know while like some of the larger producers might not be a fan of this, it really is a good way to keep everything competitive with each other and not to run out smaller producers or smaller importers that just operate on a different set of financial metrics.
Right. So it's creating a more even playing field, which I think is so important because we see so much consolidation, especially with domestic wineries, right? With big groups that are bringing in lots of independent brands and just getting bigger. So for small Italian imports and independent producers, it can be really daunting. So interesting to hear, the opportunities that might lie in the Connecticut market. So very, very fascinating. I've learned so much during this conversation, Ryan.
And I'm only not even an hour away from you, but it is so different here. So
seriously,
the benefits of Connecticut, you get a wide representation of what the U.S. market is like, from the very affluent to the more rural. You get even in-bottle pricing, so you can stay competitive. I just think it's a great market to introduce wines. Following, we'll call them the COVID years, we saw a big influx from the cities, from Boston and from New York, come into Connecticut. That brought in a lot of revenue into the state, And we're seeing the elevation of dining. Dining's really being elevated right now. More restaurants coming in, more specialty wine shops. I just really think it's an ideal market to launch into, even with wine sales going down. Because the other factor of Connecticut is Connecticut has recently introduced recreational marijuana.
Interesting.
We talk about this because we see the middle class Americans are starting to abandon their mid-tier wines for recreational marijuana.
Yeah, definitely a big threat.
And so that's really, that definitely is cutting into the sales, and that is a reality of our market.
That's becoming a reality in so many states, and I think before long we'll see that on a federal level, but that's a whole nother conversation that we don't have enough time for today.
But it's something to highlight because it does impact wine
absolutely.
sales.
And I think the wine industry needs to be acutely aware of positioning and marketing when you're not only now competing with other wines, you're competing with other categories of recreational products like cannabis. I just moved back from California to New York, and out there, psilocybin was becoming quite popular as a recreational substance as well. So, there's lots of things out there that I think we'll see in the near future. So always good to have an eye out and understand how that's going to impact your market. But, Ryan, as we wind down on today's episode, we'll do our rapid fire quiz that we do at the end of each episode with every guest. So if you can do your best to answer these questions in just a couple sentences, that would be great. So question number 1, what is your number 1 tip for mastering the U.S. wine market?
My number 1 tip for mastering the U.S. wine market would be you have to be here. You can have the best product. You can have the best distributor. You can have the best sales strategy. But unless you're actually here building those connections, we're really at a disadvantage. We see, we've got the largest sales force. We're in every single account that has almost every single account that has a liquor license in the state of Connecticut. But those brands where once or twice a year they send an ambassador, they send a representative to visit the market, those personal connections help. The second thing is we double down on education. So as a distributor, we have our own WSET school. We also teach we're a school for the Wine Scholar Guild. Education is big for us. And we're finding a lot of our buyers are interested in any type of education they can get. So if you're in the U.S. market and you're launching a new product and you can affix education to that, you're also adding an additional layer of value to your product, to your brand, and you're also building those interpersonal relationships by investing in education with our buyers.
So be in the market, invest in education.
Yes.
Those are great tips. Number 2, what is something you might have told your younger professional self about working in the wine industry?
Oh, I definitely I gave myself a timeline for achieving the levels of wine education that I wanted. Abandon the timeline. And that was a tough thing to swallow. But instead of set yourself up on a timeline for goals of achievement, really dive deep into what you're passionate about. Don't rush it, because there's so many things that you miss by trying to rush, whether it's a higher level of education or a promotion at work. Really enjoy what you're doing. Really just stop, listen to the wines. And when you're trying these wines, think about not whether you like it or not, but what is the intention of the winemaker? What's the intention of the bottle, and was that achieved? I wish I would have just slowed down a little bit rather than trying to do everything at once.
Yeah, absolutely. So really focus in on your passion and don't rush it. Great advice. And finally, I know you're traveling a lot back and forth between Spain and Connecticut. What's one of your favorite travel hacks?
Favorite travel hack is definitely pack less. Pack what you're going to pack and then go less. Now, this is difficult. I'm incredibly tall. I'm 6'9", so everything of mine is bigger, but trying to pack less. But also, I think when I first started traveling, I just always looked for the best value, because that's the reality with our economy. But in the long run, I think if you stick with brand loyalty, especially with airlines, it works out to be a better value in the long run, and you get more rewards back. Brand loyalty, I think, is very important if you were going to consistently be traveling.
Definitely. And I imagine at 6'9", a business class seat must be much more comfortable, Ryan, for you on those long haul flights.
It is. I was on the Ita Airs going to Sicily, and I couldn't even physically fit in the seats.
Oh my gosh.
Between.
Yeah.
Could not physically do it. It's fascinating.
Well, Ryan, thank you again so much for being here on the Italian Wine Podcast. How can our listeners follow along with what you're doing in Connecticut and around the world in wine?
I think the best way is through Instagram. I really enjoy Instagram because it's pictures. It's fun. For the most part, not opinions. So anything that I'm doing professionally or just within my travels, my name's Ryan. I'm a sommelier. You can always follow me at SommRyan, SommRyan on Instagram. And it's strictly about my travels. It's about what I think new trends in the industry and just a little bit of my Frenchie, Winston.
Oh, amazing, Winston. Fantastic. Well, thanks again, Ryan. It was great to have you here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Juliana. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.